Well, hi again guys, back to do another video by request. This one is just a gentleman asked me where and how to catch bait off the Gold Coast. I do get asked this one quite a lot as well at the shop. A lot of people finding catching bait off the Gold Coast can be hard at times, and I must admit, even I struggle. Everyone struggles to find bait. It's not always possible. So what I was just going to do here is do a quick rundown on what I look for in sounders and basically where I fish. These are some of my go-to marks for bait. The blocks are always a good spot to go find bait if generally it's there. 90% of the time it's there. Here's just a couple of reefs just out off the seaway where I generally find bait as well. But in saying that too, if you can't find bait in these areas here, these GPS marks, just head out to like 18 fathoms, 24 fathoms and have a look around the reef out there. Generally you will find bait out a bit wider, and generally it's a bit bigger bait, a bit better than in close on the close bait reefs. But one thing I do notice, and I've noticed this with friends, everyone when they get out looking for bait, they're always looking for the big school. Yes, you do find them occasionally, like there's a big school of bait. Sometimes it's hard off the bottom, sometimes it's up a bit higher. That's a massive school of bait, and that generally is fairly easy to catch bait unless there's predator bait fish around, but I'll explain that in a minute. So that's a great one if you find bait to catch bait on, just a nice big school. A lot of the times I'm with people, we'll go to the bait grounds and drive along, and they're looking, they see the bottom, it's fairly flat, hard bottom in the bait grounds, and you'll see a lot of little dots going on the bottom, but for some reason people drive straight past that. I don't know why, because they're looking for that. I tell my friends and stuff, we go back and go for a drift and jig. This is bait. It's just pushed down hard on the bottom, but it's bait. So don't drive past all these little dots when you see them down deep. Don't always look for this. Sometimes that's all you'll find, and there's plenty of bait in that. So if you see a bit of scattered bait hard on the bottom, stop and fish it. Generally you'll catch quite a few, probably more in that than you will in this. And the other thing is when we are out chasing bait, especially over the summer months when more the pelagics are here, you'll tend to see bait balls, mid-water and really tight, like that's really meant to be bunched up bait. That usually means there's predators in the area, so this could be mackerel, dolphin fish, depending on where you are, marlin, and they're bunching up the bait ball. Just because they're bunching up the bait ball and it's tight like this, don't think they're not going to feed. You still can catch bait out of these bait balls. You got to set your drift because it's only quite small. A good drift and drop. Look at the depth it's in, and drop down to that depth and work your jig. You will still catch this. Just the problem with catching bait out of these sort of bait balls when they're being schooled up by big fish is getting them back to the boat. Because a lot of the time you'll hook bait, you'll start pulling them out. When they're pulled out, they're easy prey. So the mackerel or the marlin or whatever will actually come past and pinch your bait off your bait jig. That happens quite a lot. And the next one, if you're really out there looking for bait and you can't find a damn thing, which happens quite a bit off the Gold Coast because it gets hit very hard out here, you don't always see this. Sometimes I'll go to the bait grounds and just see a flat bottom, and I don't know if you can see little black dots, just like one or two little dots on the bottom. It's not much. But if you're struggling to find bait or find any of this, even these couple of dots, go for a drift. You might not get a lot of bait, but if you go for a drift, you might pick one or two or three up out of the reef, and 2 or 3 baits or 4 baits is better than no baits. So even if there's not much showing, just go for a drift and have a jig. Okay? Don't just drive past thinking there's no bait there, because it's more than likely being pushed down the reef by another predator or something. So just go for a drift through and you might pick up the odd ones. But if you do like 2 or 3 drifts through one and there's nothing there, see that and you're not getting any bites, leave, head out to your bait grounds or your fishing grounds and see if you can get bait out your fishing grounds. As I said, here's some marks for you guys to go start with, catch some bait. So we've got the blocks here, good spot to go get bait and jewfish. A couple of reefs here where I get bait. Okay, so that's enough of that. What I'll do now is I'll turn the camera around, and what I do differently to, once again, a lot of the friends I fish with. A lot of guys I fish with, for some reason, put huge sinkers on. So I want the bait jigs going straight to the bottom like a brick. I don't know why. I run small, like little bombs and stuff off the back of my bait jigs in close. I'd rather my bait jigs going down a little bit slower through the water column, and it's a lot easier to jig and work them, and they look a bit more natural. That will work better than an 8-ounce freaking snapper lead. It's just straight to the bottom. I don't know why they do that, but they do. So for go smaller sinkers, I do run big heavy sinkers like if I'm out wide, like on Spot X or Deep Trag, chasing big slimies, which are mid-water in 90 metres, so you're looking, some of those fish are 30 metres down. We use quite heavy gear, bigger jigs and heavy sinkers to get straight down to the school, lift them up, get them up, beat the marlin up, beat the sharks, everything else. But in close, on the close grounds, well that, something nice and small like that, that's a small bomb. I even use Evelyn 24s, works well, works an absolute treat. The bait jigs, I got 3 of the most popular ones here. I'll show you mine. Wilson ones work quite well. Everyone buys them, they do work well. The old Gunter signature ones, basic ones, do work well as well at times. But my favourite, it's not so much the wasabi, this one, but I like these ones because I find bait jigs with gold hooks work a lot better than silver hooks. Don't ask me why, it just does. And even if all the tinsel comes off these hooks, you just drop it down with the gold, you'll still catch bait just on the gold hooks. I don't know, it's just something I've found over the years. So they work okay. Gold hooks works better. Okay, and for the outfits, just go a small light outfit. You don't need big heavy outfits for bait. Small light outfits, you can actually feel the bites. It's lots more sensitive. The rod's got a bit more give in it. So when you're winding up and the fish are fighting and that, pull as many hooks, because they're only small hooks. People use big heavy rods and the rods aren't doing any work. They're just winding up and they're pulling hooks on fish all the time. So just go a nice light outfit. As you can see here, I got one here, I'm missing a couple of hooks. That would have been from Taylor. You catch a lot of freaking, this time of year there's a lot of Taylor out there, small Taylor on the reefs. You see, just a nice little, this is like an 8-pound outfit, a flathead outfit. And the other thing is too, when I am jigging with these, you got to set your drift, so basically you got to find what your wind's doing, what your current's doing, and set your boat upwind, up current of the bait and drift back onto it. And as you're going back into it, just dropping down and just, you don't need to be too aggressive, just bounce your sinker and your bait jig. You only need a little movements. These are act as little bait fish, they only need little movements, you don't get too aggressive. Okay, and just bounce along the bottom as you're going. But try and keep it pretty much straight under the boat. If it starts drifting out with the current, wind up, cast up current and let it come down back under the boat. And just bounce it slowly as it's under the boat, and as it starts lifting up, and if there's quite a bit of current, lifting up again, wind it up, cast up current again. Okay? Don't just keep jigging while the line's out there, your bait jig's right out there in the current, you're not going to catch them. Just wind up, cast up current, let it sink down under the boat, and little twitches as it's going past. There is a little bit of footage of me just catching a few baits a couple of days ago. Just check that out. You can see how easy it is, and I'm not doing much action with the rod. I'm just dropping it down and little twitches, you'll see. And well, apart from that, it's just a bit of trial and error and practice. Oh, the next thing too, just one more tip with bait. I see a lot of people grabbing bait and trying to get the hooks out and squeezing the poor little buggers, and they're dropping the bait tank and then wonder why they die. It's because you're touching them and you're taking the slime off and everything else, especially slimies, they're very touchy. Just when you get a few baits, try just to grab the hook and just bounce the hook and bounce the bait off into the bait tank. Try not to touch it, or touch it as least possible as you can. Okay, and the baits will last a lot longer. And one more thing before I go. Starting August the 1st, I'm doing a series. It's going to be a how-to series, guys. So starting August the 1st, there's going to be 20 how-to videos in 20 days. I'm just giving you a heads up now so you get used to the idea of it's going to be, so you don't think I'm spamming you with heaps of videos. It's going to just be 20 how-to videos in 20 days. I'm not going to tell you exactly what's on them. They're just going to be a mixture from knots, rigs, assist hooks, rigging stuff, making stuff. And well, I hope you enjoy it. And just, yeah, just a heads up, there's going to be a lot of videos coming out shortly. Thanks guys. See you next week.